So I'm going to download the Scribble Together app on my iPad. I just type in Scribble Together. Scribble Together Whiteboard. Now I'm looking for this brightly coloured top right symbol with the multicoloured symbol with the S. So now press open. Right, I'm in Scribble now. If you haven't joined Scribble before, you'll be able to put your name and your email address in here. Now I would ask you to put in hello@thewholehub.co.uk. You'll have to do this in tandem with me so that I can then give you a code to permit you access into the Scribble folder for the whole hub. Nevertheless, for now, if you're just practicing, just put in your own email address and you can access Scribble and all its features for free. The only thing you can't do is create a board and then share it with somebody else, because that's a subscription service that we pay for. So if we go into Scribble, we can see here that you've got some practice boards, and I would recommend strongly having a go, particularly where it says draw perfect shapes. I'd open that up, and they're showing here all the different shapes that you can make really easily. You see how they're just making shapes, and I'll show you here now. I'll scroll down the page a bit. So say I want to draw a circle. I've got an iPad pen. That's $7.99 off Amazon. I'm not taking my pen off the board, and I make it join up, and I've created an oval. So I can do the same with a triangle. So there we go. And I can do the same with a square. Oh, it's giving me tips. Oh, there we go. See, I didn't join it up properly. You can see in that top left corner, I didn't join it up properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the eraser feature, which is this here. That is the eraser feature. So I click on that. Now I've got two different erasers I can use. Well, I'll just delete that. I've got two different erasers. The top one selects an object itself, so I'll just do that now. So like it will select the whole object and delete it. The whole object, delete it. The bottom eraser function actually just does little bits at a time. Okay, so that's really useful. Anyway, I'll go back to my shape that I was making. So I've got to make sure I do one smooth stroke and sort of join it at the end. You don't have to join it specifically, but it's helpful if you do. If you go to this feature up here, which is the hand with the dotty circle, that enables you to select an object. So I'm going to click on it now, and I'm going to select this oval, and now I can have duplicate like that, which is great. I can delete it. Or I could select the two now. I'm going to circle around the two. I can do that. I can duplicate that. So it's great for Venn diagrams. It gives you some cracking Venn diagrams. Anyway, also you can make them bigger with your fingers. I'm holding my fingers now, and I'm using two, like it says on the screen, use 2 fingers to scroll, try it. And then I can use 2 fingers to scroll down the screen like Scribble is suggesting I do. There are some other features that are quite neat on the board. You've got the obvious two, you can choose different colours, and you can choose different widths, and also you can choose this sort of shading in feature that students often love to practice with. It's just quite fun. I find that students tend to find the Scribble board very therapeutic and relaxing. In fact, one of my students actually was on the board, because I went on the board early just to check where I was at and do a bit of planning, and she was actually on the board just doing some happy scribbling, which was quite sweet. And then yes, I can pick up my eraser feature, and I can actually make I can start to do some designs in my objects. There's another feature, which is this one here. This one is the disappearing pen, which is very useful for when you're wanting to highlight something for them to teach, especially if you want to show them something, but then you want it to go into, you want them to learn it. So sometimes I write down the answer, I'll put half, so it's there for a second, and then it goes, and they've got to remember it. It helps the recall. I'm going to choose the select delete feature, because that's a lot quicker if you want to just delete everything very quickly. And then the last one is the text. And the text is a bit fiddly, but you just pick it up, click on the board, and now I can type It is a little bit fiddly. It's a feature I don't often use. I do find it much easier just to handwrite, even though your handwriting is not always great on Scribble. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll back up. I'm going to pick up this icon here, and I can use 2 fingers to scroll back up, or I pick up that icon in the corner. And I'm going to go to the top, and now these are the really useful features here. I've used the toolbar. You can actually move the toolbar around. You can move it somewhere else. As you can see, I'm moving it to different places. But right now, I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to be focusing on these 4 icons at the top here. So invite someone. This is where you will send a code to somebody else, and they can actually access the board that you are on and write on the board with you. But we'll go through the details of that in a bit. On this button here, with 2 bits of paper overlapping each other, this is really useful. Now, boards are made up of sheets, and maybe I might put 3 or 5 sheets, up to 5, 6 sheets on the board. Don't put too many or you'll crash the board because it won't cope with that amount of memory. But I can just choose a blank, add blank sheet. Right, you can see down here, I've got main sheet, sheet 2. I can click on the I, and I can actually change it to welcome to. So I can do welcome to, and here I can press done, and now I might, down in the bottom right, the other tool we haven't looked at is this button here, which is choose photo from library. There we go. I'll add that to my board. And I sometimes do that if I want to show them pictures of, things that they're interested in and related topics. And then you can actually write, it's quite handy. You can write on the photo itself, this is a horse. So that's and then you can select the photo itself and you can minimize it and move it over. You could even duplicate it. So we've got dozens of many as you want pictures. Locking it's quite useful actually, because then it won't move around on the board. Often you find if you don't lock it, it can move around on the board. So then it just becomes a feature of the board itself. On this icon, I'll just up here, if you click on it, you can add grid sheet, useful for doing graphs. And then let's call that show keyboard. And I'm going to call that grid sheet. Okay, you don't have to press done, you just press grid sheet. So you can see the sheets building up now on my list within the board itself. And here we can just do our, there we go. The great line feature is great. So I'm going to do a wiggly line. And then as long as it's just one line and I don't make one stroke, I press at the end and then it creates that line for me. And if I pick the line up using my select tool, I can then actually move it around like this. It's quite handy if you want to be more precise with how you do it. And then I'm overlapped a bit there, so I'm picking up the rubber tool and I'm just going to rub out that bit just to tidy it up. Now I've got my lovely axes there. It's really, really useful. You can add a photo independently of, you can choose photo from library, and that therefore puts another photo in the list of sheets, which can be really useful if you want to get some creative artwork off the internet and you want the child to write off the back of it. You can then put choose photo from library and it will create another sheet, or you can do choose PDF or image, but we'll talk through those in a bit. But that's all fairly self-explanatory. The key feature of Scribble is the ability to be able to share the board with somebody else. That's the whole point of Scribble. So now I am going to open up Scribble on another computer. I now want to invite somebody else to my board. So I am going to click invite someone, and then I'm going to, the code is key 2829. Also, I must select allow guests to scribble. Now, who controls navigation together? That means that if I scroll up the board, they'll see the board scrolling up, and vice versa. I don't tend to do that. I tend to choose nobody at this point because I find it a lot easier, and then I talk about where I'm going on the board because I use audio by and large. So anyway, I'm going to join a board on another iPad. Here we go. So we've got SCRIBBLETOGETHER.com, and now I'm going to click join board. I'm going to put the code that I've been given, which is 2829. I'm going to put a name. Waiting for answer. Right, you can see now it says allow. Sophie would like to join the board. I press allow. So here we can see that we have the same whiteboard open and the same axes open. Now I'm going to be writing in pink on the main tutor board, and I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now the tutee is going to pick up a different colour. Now you can see it's appearing. So you can see how if I write on one board, it immediately shows on the other. And as a tutor, I might say, give me 4, 3. And then sometimes there is a delay. Yeah, that was that delay. Could you see it? And you just have to wait. Occasionally you get a glitch. I mean, like you do with anything to do with the internet, you get glitches. But you just have to wait. And sometimes, occasionally I have to say, look, I've been writing. And so you have to close down the board and open it up again. That's just the joys of working online. But it doesn't happen very often, but it does periodically happen. So it is worth knowing how to do that. And obviously with the iPad, if you need to do that, you just swipe up from the bottom, and then you swipe up, and then you can open up Scribble again. Now, when you want to change sheets, you need to tell the student to go to this top right icon. Tell them to click on Welcome To. They click on Welcome To, and then I can click on Welcome To as well. And it does take a little bit of discussion about where you're going and making sure you're staying together on the board. Much of this, there are a few other features that you can find, but once you get the main principles, you can then find a few other tools that Scribble's got, but I'm doing the main ones here. Right, now in terms of planning, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a brand new board, new whiteboard, and I am going to do split screen feature. I'm going to open up Safari next to me. Now, I use this physicsandmathstutor.com website all the time because it's absolutely brilliant. And if you, for example, I might be doing, I can choose the exam board that I'm doing. In this case, I am going to be looking at just regular GCSE. So I'm going to go to Maths GCSE. And I'm going to scroll down, and here we've got all the exam boards that we might need. Now, often, especially with local schools to us, we're looking at Edexcel, GCSE, and then we go to paper 1, for example, and scroll down, and we have got all the question papers for the last few years. We've got the mark schemes, got the model answers. So useful as a tutor to be able to have access to all of this. So I go back up and say I choose June 17. Right, I'm going to click on June 17. Now, if I don't want to have the header sheet there, I don't need to have it on the Scribble board, but the whole PDF can be there. So firstly, I'm going to click the share button, which is the rectangle with the arrow, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click print. You can actually choose Scribble at the top here, but I don't tend to do that. I find print a bit more reliable. Now I can see I've got all these pages selected, and I don't necessarily want all of them. I might not have the top one, for example, as I said. I might just delete that. And I just go the share button again, but within the print feature. And now I can see the Scribble board there. So, as you can see, now the exam paper that we were looking for has opened up on the Scribble board to the left. Now I've done that, I'm going to go, right, I want to have the model answers for that workboard that I'm working on. So I'm going to open up June 2017 MA, which is model answers. There we go. And now I scroll down and I can see, oh wow, that's really helpful. I've got my model answers, and I'll get some teaching tips here as well, which is really handy. you can have the split screen open while you're teaching. Now I'm going to put invite someone, Gent. Now I'm going to select allow guests to scribble, and then I'm going to put nobody for who controls navigation. You can invite people using these links down at the bottom, but I don't tend to do that. Gent, waiting for answer. Now it says enable link for Sophie. I can press allow. We are all on the same board. So 2 to the 4, my tutee is going to think, right, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Right, the answer must be 2 plus 4, 6, 8. So they put 8. And therefore we have this conversation here. As tutor, I say no, 2 to the 4. Sorry, occasionally the wrong tool gets picked up. Is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then they can work it out. Alternatively, I do use the disappearing feature. And I might do, I might give an example like, just to remind them, 3 squared is 3 times 3. And then it disappears. It's just, again, lodging that in their mind. And then what they'd normally do is just go, oh yes, I remember, rub it out, and then start again. So that's essentially how Scribble works. And, if you want to go to anything, so for example, you want to go and say, well, I want to do indices. And then you click on indices here. These are great, these worksheets with mathsgenie.co.uk. Now you think, well, I don't want the header sheet. I'm going to and I'm going to press print. Then the share button again. Deselected page 1 of 8. Now I've only got pages 2 to 7, 2 to 8 selected. And then I press the share feature. And then I press scribble. And now I've opened up this indices, because maybe it might be a question that's been flagged up like just then. They've forgotten how to do indices. Then we need to practice. And the student will be able to see now, it says Safari PDF. So they can open that up. I actually find it very useful, very immediately to write down on the list, change the name of the sheet. So I put paper 1, that's foundation, isn't it? June 2017. So I know what that is, because otherwise I get lost because I use so many different boards and sheets. Indices, there we go. So indices. So I say to the student, just go to the indices board and we'll practice on that quickly, and then we can mix and match and switch. The main sheet's really useful for just going and doing and practicing just little bits that you come up with. You say go to the main sheet, and then we practice a topic, and then we go back to the actual work that we were working on. You can make your split screen smaller if you want, like that. But for any PDF, whether it's for any subject, you can do the same thing. You can go online, press the print button, and then pop whatever you want out of that PDF into Scribble and then work with it. So I think that's everything.